seconds away on Studio 5.
Worship is the sound of heaven.
Sitting down with the global pastor of Hillsong Church and
I see the world in gospel, I see the world your way, and I'm walking in the light.
sampling new sounds from Hillsong United. Then
Chef Curry with the pop, been cooking with the sauce, Chef Curry with the pop.
we're in the kitchen and on the court. The first family of the NBA is in Studio 5, starting now. Welcome to your weekly rundown of the best in uplifting entertainment news. Let's jump right in with the first two in the countdown. At number 5.
I want to stay, and I want to fight them.
Transformers hits theaters Friday, and breakout star Remy Adeleke shares a powerful personal transformation story of his own in a compelling I Am Second film.
I began to think about how I treated my mom and how I treated people I claimed I loved. And I would think about things that I did in the past, and I still yearn for that paternal presence. I couldn't really sleep, and then I began to have suicidal thoughts. I was at the lowest point I had ever been in my entire life.
At age 5, the Nigerian government seized his family's assets after his father died. It forced him and his mom to flee to New York City, where he fell into a life of crime and trouble.
I didn't know anything about the Bible, but by a simple ounce of faith, I literally began to cry out to Jesus. Literally began to cry out to Jesus. Help me, Jesus, help me.
He entered the military and became a Navy SEAL before pursuing an acting career.
Then I began to surround myself around Christians who didn't just read the Bible, but they actually lived the Bible, and I began to pray, and all I wanted to do was be with him.
At number 4.
Have you ever seen the wonder in the glimmer of first sight?
Hillsong's Wonder debuts at number 1 and lands the contemporary Christian powerhouse an appearance on the Today Show. The new project is a call to awaken the wonder inside us all. That's number 5 and 4. More to come in just a bit. Alongside her husband, Bobbie Houston leads one of the fastest growing churches in the world, Hillsong United. I sat down with her to talk about the ministry as a woman in leadership, as well as Hillsong's future. It's this week's Studio 5 interview.
All right, anyone ever questioned life? Anyone ever had a powerful realization and then suddenly you awaken to what life is truly about?
Bobbie Houston and her husband have seen Hillsong grow from a tiny church in Australia to a massive ministry, reaching people around the world. She's learned a lot in 40 years of ministry, and she's sharing it in her latest book, Stay the Path, Navigating the Challenges and Wonder of Life, Love, and Leadership.
I think that, the path is so critical for everybody. I think everyone's on a path, whether they realize it or not. Everyone's headed towards something, a destination, a journey. We're on a journey, a pilgrimage. And I think, it's so critical, it's so important. That destination is actually so important. I'm talking about heaven.
Absolutely.
And, I think that people need to be encouraged to actually get a conviction about this, a revelation about this, because it's those things that hold you to the path when the challenges or the enemies come. And so, again, we've been in ministry a long time. We have a lot of people in our world. I have, children, grandchildren, not to mention an expansive church these days of many beautiful sons and daughters all over the world. And so, I'm like, I sort of took part of the angle, like, gosh, by the grace of God, humility of heart, if my journey could teach you anything, then this is what I might say.
Hillsong is expanding as numbers, as just different branches of churches, and to Israel as well now.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
I know. Well, it hasn't actually fully begun yet, but we've seeded that we want to do that, and I don't know, we've found ourselves in Israel in recent years, fallen in love with the place, and then we have, with Brian, we don't sort of like, sometimes people think we just have this huge global strategy, this major takeover, we're going to plant churches everywhere, and his first response to that is like, no, actually, it's all about the right person at the right time, and when he feels it. And so we were in Israel last year, and we have a remarkable young woman, single woman. She's in her 40s though, and she's principal in our Bible college. She's a remarkable lady, has a huge heart for Israel. And out of that conversation, it just felt right. And so, yeah, we announced it, and we're going to seek to plant a church in Tel Aviv, which is a remarkable city.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is heralded as possibly the most secular city in Europe. So when you're in Tel Aviv, have you ever been to Tel Aviv?
Yes, I have.
Well, it's just like any other city in Europe, right? And it's full of young people. And it's full of Israeli young people who really don't care about their faith. They might be Israeli, they might be Jewish by heritage, but they actually have they're not concerned. Unlike when you go to Jerusalem, which is such a contrast of reality.
Absolutely.
And they're young and they're vibrant, and I think they're in search of truth. And so I think that's a perfect recipe for the gospel to go in there. And we're just hoping to play our part in that, be who we are. And I mean, already the interest is really quite remarkable. And the interest is from Israeli young people who have no faith yet. But they're like, we want to help. We really like you people. So we really want to help. And we're like, okay, this is quite miraculous.
That is beautiful.
Because at the end of the day, it's about people coming to Christ, right?
Absolutely, and developing that relationship that is so important. In talking to your husband and talking to your son, I've interviewed both, your husband has said that from the birth of Hillsong, he always wanted music to be a big part of that. So now that I sit down with you, was that always at your heart's core too?
I think I was, well, he may have processed that thought differently to me. I was probably like just very young and naive and managing a young family, right?
Yes.
Okay, and everything that goes with that. But when I got saved into a remarkable church in New Zealand that had a beautiful anointing for worship and music. Scripture and song, if you go right back into the early 70s, actually birthed out of that church. So I have only ever been in that church and really our church in Australia.
Wow.
Those are my two plantings. And I only moved because I got engaged to him and I thought I really should come to your church and follow you to Australia. But honestly, I've always been in an environment of worship. You know, I remember the first time I got saved. I remember going to Sunday morning church, walking down the centre aisle of the Auckland Town Hall, a rented venue. Worship was playing, it was beautiful music. And I had just read Psalm 27, and it was like in that moment I fell in love with the house of God. I was like, oh, one thing have I desired of the Lord, that will I seek after, that I might dwell in the house of God. And I think the moment, the atmosphere, the presence of God, and the music, the worship, all contributed to that moment.
My heart beating, my soul breathing, I found my life when I laid it down.
Worship is the sound of heaven. So when we talk about heaven on earth and bringing a taste of heaven on earth, or heaven is in His house, well, of course, that's a treasured part of our worship. And we've been blessed to play a part in that and bringing a song not only to our local church, because that's really where it begins, but actually to the greater body of Christ.
And Bobbie's book, Stay the Path, is available now wherever books are sold. Stay with us. We've got more on Hillsong still ahead. Still ahead here on Studio 5.
You're left behind. If you have so said.
The near-death story behind this wondrous new sound from Hillsong United. And welcome back to Studio 5. The Hillsong story continues with new music from Hillsong United in just a moment. But first, let's look at the next two headlines in our weekly countdown of the best in uplifting entertainment news. At number 3.
It's a pendulum, all comes back around. It's a pendulum.
A surprise wake-up call for Katy Perry from her choir and her favorite singer, contemporary Christian recording artist Crystal Lewis.
This is Crystal Lewis. This is like my favorite singer growing up.
I know.
So sweet. Oh my God. This is like my Madonna.
With the release of new music, Perry streamed her life and gave audiences an intimate look at her struggle with faith.
Growing up, well, I love my parents.
Yes.
And I grew up with a lot of born-again Christian beliefs around me, and so I
had people around me, like-minded people like that, and I would say that it was a bit of a bubble.
At number 2.
Come on in this house. It's gonna rain. Mama, you know it's gonna rain.
Tweets declare Chance the Rapper is adding a sign language interpreter to the remaining stops of his Be Encouraged tour. And he's the first hip-hop artist to incorporate an American Sign Language interpreter for his shows. Hillsong United is a multi-platinum contemporary Christian powerhouse, and the band's latest project, Wonder, debuts at number 1. In case you haven't heard it, here's a sample of the single, Wonder. It's what's playing in my ear.
I see the world in light. I see the world in wonder. I see the world in light, bursting in living color. I see the world your way, and I'm walking in the light.
And that is just a sample of the tune Wonder from Hillsong United. And joining us now here on Studio 5 are band members Joel Houston and JD. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So this is your 6th studio album. It debuts number 1, lands you a spot on the Today Show performing. How do you feel about how people are responding to it?
I mean, it's encouraging. I guess it could be worse. The funny thing is, honestly, we've spent the best part of the last year, kind of living, breathing, this project, and you pour so much of yourself into it, and then when it comes time, it's like, well, here it is, everybody, and then it's beyond your control in many ways, and to me, I love it. I love the fact that it's music and art and creativity and the story is something that actually will make a way for itself, and always has from the beginning of time, and so it's one of those things where it's like, here it is, let's see where it goes, and let God take it where he wants.
Indeed. I believe this project is meant to reignite hope and imagination. Do you feel we've lost the wonder?
I think it's really, really easy for us to get familiar in life, and I think when we first started working on the album, and just thinking about, all right, well, what is it that God wants to say? What is it that's going on in the world? And the message is timeless, and yet it's always good for the season. And I think we came back to just the roots of why we fell in love with God in the first place, why we fell in love with music in the first place. And I remember at the end of last year watching it was a crazy time then, it's a crazy time now. But I'm flicking between cable news networks. I'm trying to figure out what's up, what's down, what's left, right, what's true, what's not. And I just remember my son just running around wanting to be Batman. And I'm thinking, man, I pray we never lose that childlike faith, that curiosity, that sense of just seeing the best in everything and wanting to kind of just, take it all in. And I think there's beauty to be found in the midst of the madness, in the midst of the chaos and all the tension. And our job as Christians or as people of faith is one where we need to not look at the world just purely from our lens, but we need to see it through the lens of grace. We need to see others, we need to see people through the lens of grace. And
indeed. JD, what's been your prayer for this project?
Yeah, Joel talking, I've got 3 kids of myself, and usually I'm home with them, but obviously we're away at the moment. And whenever I FaceTime, I've got 2 girls, I've got a little boy and my son, and I love his face lights up when he hears my voice or when he sees me, and it's like the greatest feeling. And I think that's one of those things, hopefully in the same way, people's face lights up when they hear this music, not just because of the music alone, but the message of what it carries and the way that it will bring courage and encourage people and, make that decision to actually look at the world through the eyes of wonder and faith in who our Father is and the plan that he has for every single person's life. Mm.
Joel, I've heard you say that a near-death experience also helped to inspire this in a way. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah. I mean, it was many years ago, and I was surfing, as you do, and I actually was just thinking about it again around the same time as we started working on the album. I was like, man, that was a crazy time. And I drowned, basically. I was held underwater to the point where I gave up, and I was like, I couldn't fight anymore, and I actually don't remember how I ended up kind of getting washed up on the shore, but I found myself just kind of grasping life. I remember my hands being in the sand. I had no strength to kind of lift myself up, but I remember looking at the sand and thinking, oh my goodness, sand, you are the most beautiful thing in the world. You're like diamonds running through my hand. I've never taken you. I've never appreciated you. You're just like me. You've been cast by the wind and the seas and washed up on the shore. And I was thinking, you know, like, there's something about death and just the reality of life that it should help us awaken to just being grateful for what we have, the breath in our lungs, the fact that God is in everything. I remember looking at everything that evening and just thinking, oh my goodness, like there is so much beauty that I miss just in the mundane. And life is too short for us to live kind of, looking through this lens like this. We have to see what God's doing because he's doing something beautiful.
Thank you both so much for your time. JD and Joel Houston, Hillsong United. The project is called Wonder, and it is certainly worth hearing. God bless you both.
You too. Thanks.
Still ahead on Studio 5.
This isn't an issue that we can eradicate. It's something that's preventable.
See how the NBA's Steph Curry's three-point shots are saving lives. And welcome back to Studio 5. It is now time for this week's #1 in our look at uplifting entertainment news. At #1, production has wrapped in Memphis.
Take 3, Mark.
For Indivisible, the feature film about real-life Army chaplain Darren Turner, who served during the Iraq War and received the Bronze Star for valor, but watched his family fall apart. Studio 5 was on set with the cast and crew, including Grey's Anatomy star Sarah Drew.
It's something that hit very, very close to home for me. I'm not a military family, but just from the marriage perspective. Going through a very dark time and coming out into the light, into a much more brilliant light. A redemption story.
And that wraps this week's countdown. He's fresh off a championship win, and she's fresh out of the kitchen with a new restaurant and the second season of her Food Network show. Steph and Ayesha Curry are a power couple, using their celebrity to inspire others. Let's travel to California for this week's Studio 5 Bright Spot. Welcome to the San Francisco Bay Area and to Oracle Arena, home court for the NBA champs, the Golden State Warriors, and Steph Curry, arguably one of the best players in the league. But even after helping his team to their second championship win in 3 years, he still often wonders, how did I get here?
100%. There are times where I think back to when I was drafted and didn't know exactly the direction we were going. A losing team, and to now where we're playing for championships and have a huge stage to play on every single night we step foot on the floor. So it's an amazing journey and something I'm grateful of the entire journey to get here.
Fans love Curry for his game, but they also admire him for his faith and his love for his family.
I've learned well from my parents. They set a very, very high standard of who you are, what you believe, and how Jesus can work through you on a daily basis should be at the forefront, and that should be able to navigate you through whatever, life situation you're in, and to not be ashamed of that.
Sharing that bold faith and cheering him on from the sidelines is his biggest fan, his wife, Ayesha. Have you always been a basketball fan?
No. Oh gosh, not at all. I come from a very artsy family. The only sort of introduction to sports that I had before meeting my husband was Buffalo Bills football and Doug Flutie Flakes. My dad grew up in Buffalo and has been a Bills fan all his life.
Now Ayesha Curry's focus is NBA basketball as she cheers on her husband at almost all of the Warriors' home games. Away from the court.
Hi guys, Ayesha here. Today I have a recipe for you guys that is a staple in our household.
Her passion moves to the kitchen, sharing recipes and cooking tips with the millions who follow her online. And in her best-selling cookbook, The Seasoned Life, Food, Family, Faith, and the Joy of Eating Well. Was this a hard thing to do?
Yeah, it was. There were points when I wanted to give up. There were points that were enjoyable, and there were points where I just didn't want to do it anymore, but I pushed through, and I'm really happy that I did. because I now have this great book full of quick and easy recipes for everybody to enjoy, but more so for me to pass down to my daughters.
Prayer and a gentle push from her husband
Chef Curry with the pop
helped Ayesha begin sharing her fun kitchen life, and fans quickly followed. How important do you think it is for people to acknowledge God in that process?
Oh, I think it's very important, because you could find yourself in a place you don't want to be really quickly. So it's, I feel like it's important to make sure you're always praying, always talking, to have like clarity of mind and peace.
Your husband's phenomenal on the basketball court.
Thank you.
In the kitchen, what's the story?
He's getting better. You know, persistence is key.
Away from the kitchen and off the court, the Currys are givers, donating life-saving bed nets to people in need. It's a Nothing But Nets campaign, tied to every three-pointer he scores in the game.
It's definitely gratifying to know we're saving lives. Malaria is a devastating disease, especially for kids under the age of 5. And so families in Africa who are in, malaria prevalent areas, those parents can't protect their young ones from a mosquito bite and the negative effects of malaria, without our help and without these nets. And this isn't an issue that we can eradicate. It's something that's preventable, and we're on that mission.
In addition to a cooking show and a restaurant, Ayesha Curry also has a great cookbook. Still ahead on Studio 5.
Oh, the thunder, it speaks of your power, but there's something in the sound of the saints.
Singer Steph and Ayesha lends his voice to saving lives in Haiti. Well, we are almost out of time for this show, so here's a look at what we're working on for next week's episode of Studio 5.
Hello, my name is Regret. I'm pretty sure we have met.
Matthew West steps away from the stage for a candid conversation. What does a Christian singer and songwriter, award-winning, know about struggling to find identity?
I thought you were going to ask, what does an award-winning songwriter know about writing a book?
We're going inside Hello, My Name Is, Matthew's new book on finding identity.
I think one of the biggest struggles I've had is realizing that I'm not defined by the music I make or how many people come to my concert.
Hello, my name is Defeat. I know you recognize me.
That story and more are ahead for next week. As for this show, I'm giving the final word to the front man of Audio Adrenaline, Steph and Ayesha.
Oh, I love to hear the song of creation, the wind and the rhythm of the rain. Oh, the thunder, it speaks of your power, but there's something in the sound of the saints.
At the Hands and Feet Project, we have 2 children's villages, one in Jacmel, one in Grand Guave, and then also we have a new project that we just completed called Icondo, which is a mission guest village, where we encourage mission teams to come and stay and experience Haiti, not just to see the poverty and everything, but to hang out with our kids, to see the difference in the kids, and then to pour into the local economy and experience Haiti on a tourism basis. And so we take care of about 100 orphan and abandoned kids, and the goal is to keep families together first and foremost, but then if that's not an option, we take care of the kids, and then we've had some of our first kids graduate. The program's been going for about 13 years.
I will hear the chorus of the angels, a forever symphony of praise.
We get to tour all over the world in front of hundreds of thousands of people, and to just play music would be such a waste. It would be such a waste of time and so fleeting. And to be able to tell the world about the need in Haiti especially, but just overall, there's so many people in need, and just to encourage people to get out and make a difference.
That's a good word from Adam and the final word for this edition of Studio 5. Until next time, reach out and touch Meet Up from Graham on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat. And then you come on back and see where Studio 5 takes you next week. Bye-bye, and God bless.